Capricorn, stop scrolling for a moment and take a deep breath, because what I'm about to tell you is not an accident that you're hearing this now. There are messages in the air that only reach the right soul at the right moment, and if this found you, it's because heaven has already started moving in your favor. Before you listen further, I need you to lock in, like, share, and type "I receive it" in the comments, not as a formality, but as an act of alignment. This is more than a message, it's a spiritual transaction. The moment you engage, the energy begins to shift. Something that was stuck begins to move again. You're not just watching, you're being written into a prophecy that's been waiting to be fulfilled. You may have felt like your efforts have gone unseen, like you've been giving your all yet no one notices. Capricorn, that's not blindness, it's divine concealment. When heaven hides you, it's never to punish you, it's to prepare the stage for your unveiling. Think of Joseph, betrayed, sold, imprisoned, and forgotten. The man had dreams of greatness but found himself behind iron bars. Yet, in that prison cell, a transfer was already being arranged in the unseen. Pharaoh couldn't sleep. Dreams began to trouble the king of Egypt because a man in a cell was scheduled for promotion. That's what's happening to you right now. Someone powerful is growing restless because your name is written in their spirit. You see, divine transfers don't begin when you see movement. They begin in silence. They begin in the moments when it looks like nothing's happening. Nature works that way too. Tectonic plates shift quietly beneath the earth before an earthquake shakes the surface. Caterpillars liquefy inside their cocoons long before they ever sprout wings. Transformation is always messy before it's magnificent. And Capricorn, you're right there, in that invisible stage where everything looks confusing, but everything is actually being rearranged in your favor. Let me tell you something strange about destiny. It never announces itself politely. It doesn't knock. It crashes in, disguised as pain. Tyler Perry once lived in his car, rejected by investors, ignored by the media, and laughed at for chasing impossible dreams. But do you know when the transfer happened? Not when the world praised him, but when he decided to write one more script after years of failure. The divine transfer began when he refused to quit. That's exactly where you are, Capricorn, standing in the space where giving up looks tempting, but breakthrough is secretly forming behind you. Every divine exchange begins with a season of silence. You'll know it's happening because the things that once made sense start falling apart. Doors that used to open easily start to resist you. Friends who used to understand you suddenly withdraw. Opportunities you prayed for seem to vanish. But listen, those aren't losses, they're signals. Heaven never opens new gates while old ones are still occupied. Saul had to fall for David to rise. Elijah had to ascend for Elisha to receive the mantle. Vashti had to be removed before Esther could wear the crown. These weren't random events, they were transfers of glory. Capricorn, you've been asking, why does it feel like I'm losing everything? But what if what you call loss is actually a relocation notice from the divine? What if everything familiar had to reject you because new soil is waiting for your roots? Even the river changes its course when the earth beneath it shifts. The old channel dries up, not because it's cursed, but because the water found a new path. The same is happening to you. The flow is changing direction. Think about Steve Jobs. The man who built Apple was fired from his own company. It was humiliation in public view. People mocked him. But years later, when Apple began to crumble, the same people who dismissed him had to call him back. He didn't just return, he revolutionized technology. Capricorn, sometimes the world has to reject you before it can recognize you. What's leaving your life now isn't punishment, it's preparation. When God is transferring glory, he first transfers attention. The same people who once ignored you will soon be unable to stop mentioning your name. There's a law in the spiritual realm. The one who carries the right vibration will always attract divine recognition at the right time. Remember how Pharaoh's cupbearer forgot Joseph for years, but when destiny reached its hour, memory itself was reprogrammed. The man suddenly remembered Joseph and spoke his name in the palace. Capricorn, someone who forgot you is about to remember you. They won't even understand why they suddenly think of you, but they'll feel compelled to reach out. That's not coincidence, that's spiritual engineering. The reason it's been so quiet is because heaven works like a chess master. Before a winning move, it looks like you're cornered. But every piece is in motion. That delay you hate, it's divine choreography. Every denial, a redirection. Every closed door, a hint that the next one holds your name. When Elijah's time was up, Elisha didn't beg, he followed the whisper of destiny. When Elijah's mantle dropped, the entire atmosphere shifted. That's what's about to happen in your life. A shift so sudden it'll confuse the people who thought they knew your story. Capricorn, you've been feeling restless for a reason. You've been sensing that something is coming, but you can't explain it. That's because your spirit knows what your eyes can't yet see. You're on the edge of what's called a transfer zone, the place where heaven reorganizes ownership, position, and authority. It's the moment where your name starts echoing in rooms you've never walked into. And here's the thing, the ones currently sitting in your position can feel it too. That's why you've been facing strange resistance. They can sense that your energy is rising and the system is preparing to release what was never truly theirs. A transfer season often begins with frustration. You'll notice delays, rejections, and odd coincidences. Money slows down, relationships strain, even your sleep feels off. But here's the truth, pressure always increases before a breakthrough. It's the universe's way of pushing you through the birth canal of your next season. There was a woman once who lost her job suddenly, no warning, no savings. She thought her life was collapsing. She cried for weeks, questioning everything. But one night she woke up with an idea she couldn't shake, to start a catering business from her tiny kitchen. Fast forward a few years, and she was employing over 100 people, feeding dignitaries and politicians. The job loss that broke her heart was the exact event that broke open her purpose. Capricorn, some of your greatest pain points are actually portals. What feels like an ending is a coded invitation to begin again on higher ground. Do you know how many people get stuck because they confuse stability with destiny? You were never meant to stay in the same lane forever. Even rivers change course when the landscape demands it. Capricorn, you've mastered survival. Now heaven is promoting you to significance. That's why old cycles are refusing to continue. Your spirit has outgrown your surroundings. Winston Churchill once said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal." Before becoming one of history's most respected leaders, he was dismissed, mocked, and forced into political exile. But destiny doesn't delete names, it preserves them. When the world plunged into war, the same voice they silenced became the only one that could guide them through. That's how divine transfers work. They wait until the hour when your anointing matches the world's need. Capricorn, your hour is near. Don't mistake hidden seasons for wasted years. Every silence was gathering evidence for your emergence. Every heartbreak was rearranging your priorities. Every betrayal was an early announcement that you're being repositioned. God never promotes without pruning. And right now, He's trimming away everything that can't go with you to the next level. Capricorn, if you've been waking up in the middle of the night with unexplained thoughts, ideas, or names popping into your head, pay attention. These are spiritual signals. Your subconscious is syncing with your future timeline. You're being shown pieces of the path you're about to walk. What you thought were random thoughts are actually instructions. Now listen carefully. Every major transfer in the Bible involved a moment of sudden visibility. David was tending sheep when Samuel came searching for the next king. He didn't apply for the position found him. Esther didn't chase the crown chased her through divine orchestration. Joseph didn't beg for promotion, his excellence announced him. Capricorn, the season you've been preparing for will not require chasing, it will require readiness. Do you remember Beyoncé before Destiny's Child? She lost talent competitions, faced rejection, and battled doubt. Yet her failure became the furnace that forged her identity. She once said that being rejected early saved her from self-destruction later. Capricorn, what felt like failure was actually calibration. Heaven was aligning your confidence with your calling. Every delay you endured has a destination. There are spiritual records, scrolls written before you were born, and your name is being called on one of them now. The crown that once sat wrongly is searching for its rightful head. The oil that was poured years ago but never manifested is about to find expression. When David was anointed, he didn't become king instantly. He returned to the field, facing lions and bears, but that oil never dried up. It waited for its appointed day. And now, Capricorn, that oil on your life, the one that seemed to go unused, is awakening. You've probably noticed strange things happening lately. People who once had power over you suddenly losing influence. Opportunities coming from unexpected directions. Dreams becoming more vivid. These are not coincidences, they're symptoms of transfer. The throne is shifting. The crown is realigning. The favor that bypassed you before can't miss you now. Capricorn, you've been overlooked, underestimated, and misjudged. People thought your silence meant weakness, but heaven calls it wisdom. The universe was hiding you from premature exposure because what's about to be revealed cannot be tainted by immaturity. Every time you were ignored, you were being protected. Every delay preserved your value. Abraham Lincoln lost elections, failed in business, and faced ridicule. Yet, when the time came, destiny remembered him. Even fate respects timing. You might have been delayed, but you were never denied. The clock is catching up with your purpose. Sometimes when the transfer begins, you'll feel it as a heaviness, a strange pressure in your spirit, an unexplainable exhaustion. That's because your energy is being upgraded. You're carrying something heavier now: authority, wisdom, influence. The caterpillar doesn't crawl easily before it becomes a butterfly. It wrestles in the cocoon until its old form breaks apart. You're in that stage, Capricorn. Heaven is stretching your wings. Someone somewhere is about to say your name in a meeting you weren't invited to. A decision is being made that will shift your entire future. A signature, an opportunity, a recommendation, it's forming even now. Don't panic about the delays. You're being introduced in the spirit before you're announced in the natural. Capricorn, I want you to do something symbolic right now. Type, "My transfer is happening," in the comments. Not because it's a trend, but because the act of writing it down seals the vibration. You're agreeing with your next chapter. You're letting heaven know you're ready. There's a strange peace coming, the kind that confuses people who know your struggles. You'll notice yourself smiling for no reason, sleeping better, feeling lighter. That's not coincidence, that's evidence. Transfers don't always start with wealth or fame, they start with peace. When heaven finishes fighting for you, peace becomes the first sign of victory. Some of you have been praying for open doors, but listen carefully. Sometimes the door isn't locked, it's just waiting for the right key. And that key is timing. When the right hour strikes, the door opens without force. That hour is approaching. Capricorn, something sacred is shifting in your favor. Old cycles are closing. The same people who dismissed you will soon need you. The same rooms that excluded you will seek your presence. And the same energy that drained you will now empower you. Everything that was stolen is being tracked in the spirit. There is a ledger, invisible but active, where divine justice is balanced. The records of your effort, your tears, your silence are being recalculated. Nothing was wasted. Your name is being whispered in places of influence. Projects, opportunities, and invitations will soon begin to surface out of nowhere. Don't be shocked. They were always meant for you. The delay was divine protection from premature exposure. There's a moment coming soon when the crown will finally rest on the right head. The energy that once resisted you will begin to recognize you, and the very things that broke you will start to bless you. Capricorn, stay alert, because in the stillness of night, something has already shifted. The scroll has been opened, the announcement is being written, and even now, as you listen, your name is moving through the wind. Capricorn, listen carefully. Before the blessing shows up, before the doors open, before your name is mentioned in rooms you've never entered, something strange begins to happen. Everything starts to close at once. Opportunities that once flowed freely begin to dry up. People you trusted start acting differently. Calls that used to excite you suddenly stop coming, and you begin to wonder, what did I do wrong? But you didn't do anything wrong. You just stepped into the exchange zone, the space where heaven rearranges everything attached to your destiny. If you're hearing this now, it's because that rearrangement has already begun. I need you to like this video, subscribe, and write "I'm ready" in the comments, because this isn't just motivation, this is activation. What's about to happen in your life will rewrite your story forever. Capricorn, sometimes God closes doors that are still good just because they're not divine. The doors that once opened easily will suddenly begin to resist you. The invitations stop, the support dries up, the favor feels frozen, but the silence isn't rejection, it's redirection. The divine transfer never begins with comfort, it begins with confusion. It begins with the uneasy feeling that what once fit now feels too small. You've outgrown certain energies, certain people, certain versions of yourself, and the universe can't place new oil on an old altar. You're being pulled out of what was familiar, not because you failed, but because you've already fulfilled that chapter. Think about it. When Joseph was promoted to the palace, it wasn't just Pharaoh's dream that called him, it was the completion of his own cycle. He couldn't remain in the prison any longer because destiny had already demanded his name. Some of you are in that same position. Everything around you feels tight because the room you're in can no longer contain your calling. Heaven is applying pressure to push you forward. You might think it's falling apart, but it's actually being rearranged. Let me tell you something strange, Capricorn. Every great person went through this mysterious silence before their moment of emergence. When Steve Jobs was fired from Apple, the company he built from scratch, he didn't see it as a divine move. He saw it as betrayal. His world collapsed. But years later, when Apple began to crumble, they called him back, not as an employee, but as a savior to the same system that once rejected him. Do you see it? The transfer always begins with removal. You can't be placed where you belong until you've been displaced from where you don't. And I can feel some of you right now, you're in that stage, the one where everything looks uncertain. The job feels shaky, the relationship feels distant, the money feels unstable. But what if I told you that instability is a spiritual code? It's heaven's way of alerting you that your old position has expired. Capricorn, when your assignment is complete, life will no longer fit. The divine doesn't allow peace to exist in expired seasons. Let me remind you of a woman named Sarah Blakely. Before she became the billionaire founder of Spanx, she worked door-to-door selling fax machines. Every day she got rejected, ridiculed, and told no. But the day she lost her job, she didn't cry, she created. That rejection became her redirection. That no became her yes from heaven. Capricorn, sometimes the most painful exits are secret entrances. Heaven doesn't close one door without unlocking another. It just doesn't tell you which hallway connects them. You've been feeling drained lately, haven't you? Like your energy is leaking and you can't figure out why. That's because you're shedding layers. Transfers demand purification. The universe is filtering your circle, exposing motives, cutting off attachments that can't survive in your next level. That's why people you love suddenly switch up. That's why what used to make you happy now irritates your spirit. That's why your rest feels disturbed even though you're not stressed. You're being detoxed for destiny. Capricorn, don't fight the exits. Every person leaving your life right now is part of the divine cleanup crew. When Elijah's mantle fell, Elisha couldn't pick it up until his master was gone. Some people's departure is the signal that your elevation is here. Stop chasing those who are walking out. Their time in your story has ended. Every person that walks away clears space for new alignment. Let's look at David. Before the crown rested on his head, everything familiar turned against him. King Saul tried to kill him. His own brothers mocked him. Even the city he protected rejected him. But none of that was punishment, it was preparation. The wilderness became his training ground. His pain became his passport. Capricorn, you've been training without realizing it. Every hardship you faced was strengthening a muscle you'll need in the palace. The rejection wasn't personal, it was prophetic. Even in modern times, we see it. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job because they said she wasn't fit for broadcast. But that failure pushed her to start something different, something her soul could own. That's when the transfer began, from being employed by others to employing others. Capricorn, the universe is tired of you renting your gift. It's time for ownership. The same system that dismissed you will one day call you boss. But here's the catch. Transfers don't come to the unprepared. Before heaven places a crown, it tests your consistency in the valley. Some of you are in that testing phase right now. The money's tight, the recognition's low, and your patience is being stretched. But heaven is watching how you handle small responsibilities before releasing major influence. If you can stay faithful now, the reward that's coming will silence every doubt that ever haunted you. You might not know this, but Winston Churchill's story carries the same rhythm. He was dismissed from leadership, publicly humiliated, and labeled unfit to lead. But when war came, the world searched for a voice with conviction. Suddenly, the same man they rejected became the one they couldn't do without. That's how divine replacement works. It waits for the moment when the world's need meets your readiness. Capricorn, your readiness is being noticed. It's okay if you've been feeling restless lately. Restlessness is the whisper of destiny. It's how heaven announces that a shift is near. You'll find yourself questioning everything, your work, your friends, even your routines. But that's not confusion, it's calling. Your spirit can sense that your environment is too small for what's coming. That inner discomfort is a prophecy. Let me tell you about a man named Nelson Mandela. He was imprisoned for 27 years, stripped of his freedom, cut off from the world. But during those silent years, he wasn't decaying, he was being developed. When he finally walked out of that prison, he didn't just step into freedom, he stepped into leadership. The same system that silenced him had to hand him the microphone. Capricorn, that's what's happening to you. The places that limited you will soon amplify you. The same tables that refused your seat will soon beg for your presence. There's something you need to understand about divine timing. It's not late, it's layered. God hides breakthroughs inside breakdowns. The doors that slammed in your face were actually walls meant to protect you until you were ready. Remember Ruth? When she followed Naomi, she left everything behind, her country, her comfort, her identity. But that loss was the beginning of her legacy. She thought she was following sorrow. She was actually walking into royalty. Capricorn, don't panic when what you built starts to crumble. The tower has to fall before the foundation can be replaced. If you feel like everything is collapsing, it's because the structure of your old season can't handle the weight of your new one. The divine doesn't destroy to harm, it destroys to rebuild stronger. And here's a mystery you must not miss. Before every transfer, the atmosphere grows heavy. You'll notice delays, misunderstandings, even isolation. It's because heaven is rewiring your path. When an airplane is rerouted, it experiences turbulence. That turbulence isn't meant to break it. It's meant to shift it to safer airspace. That's what you're feeling, Capricorn. You're being elevated to safer heights. Remember, every great change in Scripture began with separation. Abraham had to leave his father's house before God could multiply his name. Moses had to flee Egypt before he could free it. Jesus withdrew from the crowd before he revealed his power. The pattern is clear. Separation precedes manifestation. So when you find yourself alone, don't see it as loneliness. See it as location. Heaven is placing you somewhere new. Sometimes God allows certain people to misunderstand you just to protect you. If they understood your next move, they'd try to control it. That's why some relationships are ending without explanation. It's divine secrecy. You're not being punished, you're being preserved. There's a man in history named Thomas Edison who failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. When asked about his failures, he said, "I didn't fail, I found 1,000 ways that didn't work." Capricorn, that's your mindset now. Every failure you've experienced was data. Heaven has been collecting your experience, your tears, your endurance, and it's about to turn it all into wisdom currency. Pay attention to how your spirit reacts lately. The songs you used to love suddenly feel meaningless. The people who used to inspire you now drain you. The places that once felt comfortable now feel confining. That's not mood swings, it's the sound of your spirit outgrowing its shell. Just like a snake shedding skin or an eagle molting feathers, you're being renewed for higher altitude. And Capricorn, let me tell you something about pressure. Diamonds aren't born in luxury, they're born underground. You've been buried not to die, but to develop. You're not under attack, you're under construction. Everything that's pressing you right now is shaping the brilliance of your next chapter. There's a law of divine replacement that you're about to witness. When Saul fell, David rose. When Elijah ascended, Elisha received the double portion. When Queen Vashti lost her throne, Esther gained hers. Replacement is not cruel, it's correction. The universe corrects imbalance by transferring favor to those who carry purity of heart. That's you, Capricorn. The throne that once rejected you is trembling because your anointing is near. Even Jesus experienced divine transfer. Before he rose, he was buried. Before he was glorified, he was humiliated. But 3 days later, everything reversed. The cross became the crown. The pain became power. The stone that sealed the tomb became the stage of resurrection. Capricorn, you're in your 3 days. Hidden, silent, and misunderstood. But soon, everything that buried you will bear witness to your rising. There's something powerful happening in your name. In rooms you've never entered, your spirit is being introduced. People are discussing opportunities without realizing they're preparing them for you. Your energy has reached ahead of you. That's how divine timing works. It announces you before you arrive. So don't be afraid when your routine crumbles. Don't panic when your circle shifts. The divine transfer isn't coming, it's already here. The signs are everywhere. The tension, the silence, the unusual coincidences, they're not random, they're proof. Capricorn, I need you to write in the comments, my atmosphere is shifting. Say it like you believe it, because words carry vibration. When you speak it, you authorize it. You're not just typing, you're testifying. Heaven responds to declaration. There's a sound being released in the spirit, a sound of closing doors, moving furniture, shifting thrones. Someone who once looked down on you will soon need your favor. Someone who thought you'd never rise will have to mention your name in admiration. This isn't wishful thinking, it's a spiritual law. When the righteous are elevated, balance is restored. Capricorn, you're not cursed, you're chosen. The chaos you're facing is not random, it's rearrangement. The confusion you feel is the birth pain of clarity. You're standing in the middle of a transfer so massive that even your enemies will be forced to watch it unfold. You might not understand everything right now, but soon you'll see why things had to fall apart. Every rejection was rehearsing your revelation. Every loss was rehearsing your gain. Every heartbreak was making space for divine alignment. Keep your faith steady, because the transfer hasn't just started, it's accelerating. You're being written into a chapter that was delayed but never denied. And soon, very soon, the same places that pushed you out will call your name again, but this time they'll call you leader. The silence you're hearing isn't absence, it's the sound of heaven working. Capricorn, stay still, because just beneath the chaos, something ancient and powerful has begun to move. The divine books are open, and your name has just been read aloud. Capricorn, something is about to shift so drastically in your life that even your reflection will not recognize the version of you that's about to emerge. Before we even begin, I want you to stop scrolling and listen closely, because this message found you for a reason. If you've been feeling like your blessings are delayed, if you've been sensing something pulling you toward a new path but can't explain what it is, then this is your divine signal. Take a moment right now to engage with this channel, not just for algorithms, not just for numbers, but because every word spoken here activates alignment in your spirit. Hit that like, leave your mark in the comments, say I'm ready for my divine transfer, and let the universe see your faith in action. Because what's coming next is not a story, it's a prophecy unfolding through time. One that has been written about your life long before you were born. There are moments in life when time bends, when destiny shifts without warning, when something sacred passes through your atmosphere and you don't even realize it until days later, when everything you thought you knew suddenly rearranges itself. Capricorn, this is one of those moments. You are standing at the edge of a spiritual transfer, not a normal one, not the kind that just gives you a new job or a little luck. No, this is a divine exchange of power, purpose, and glory. This is the kind of shift that Joseph experienced when he was dragged from the pit to the palace in a single day. One moment he was wearing rags, the next he was wearing royal robes, and all the betrayal, all the rejection, all the silent tears of the years before suddenly made sense. What if I told you that's what's about to happen to you? You felt it, haven't you? That tension between what you know you deserve and what life keeps giving you, that quiet exhaustion of giving your all and still being overlooked. That's not punishment, it's preparation. There's a story about Steve Jobs before Apple became Apple. He was fired from his own company, rejected, humiliated, written off. But years later, that same rejection became the fire that refined his vision. He returned not as the same man, but as a legend reborn. Capricorn, that's exactly where you are right now. What looks like rejection is divine redirection. What looks like loss is God's way of clearing your stage for the audience meant to witness your rise. There are hidden forces at play, shifting what you can't see yet. You might have noticed people disappearing from your life suddenly, friendships fading, connections breaking without reason. But this isn't loss, it's pruning. Every person who leaves now was never meant to carry the next version of you. It's the same reason Abraham had to leave Lot behind before stepping into the land of promise. Sometimes the weight of old energy cannot pass through the new gates of glory. So if it feels lonely lately, if your circle is shrinking, it's not because you're being forgotten. It's because you're being prepared to stand where only those chosen by fire can stand. Capricorn, your life is mirroring something ancient. There was a time when David was anointed as king, but he didn't sit on the throne immediately. He went back to the fields. He still fought battles. He still endured seasons that looked like anything but kingship. Yet every battle made him stronger. Every delay added depth to his destiny. And when the time came, he didn't have to fight for the crown found him. You are entering that same season. The transfer that's about to happen in your life doesn't require your striving, only your staying power. You've been consistent through storms that would have broken others. You've smiled while bleeding internally. You've stayed humble while others mocked you for being too quiet. But heaven has been watching, and the table is finally being set. Sometimes the universe tests your silence before it amplifies your voice. You've been wondering why your light has been dimmed, why your creativity, your motivation, your energy all feel trapped under invisible weight. That's because before the transfer happens, there's always a spiritual pause, a stillness where everything looks stagnant, but in reality, the soil beneath you is expanding. Think of the bamboo tree. It takes 5 years before you see a single sprout above ground. But in those years of nothingness, its roots spread deep enough to hold heights beyond imagination. When it finally breaks through, it doesn't grow slowly. It shoots up rapidly, unstoppable. Capricorn, your nothing is happening season is about to become your everything happened at once season. There's something strange about the way divine timing works. It rarely warns you before it arrives. It sneaks up like a whisper, like how Ruth wandered into Boaz's field by chance. But that chance encounter changed her entire lineage. She was a foreigner, an outsider, someone who didn't belong. But favor doesn't care about where you came from, it cares about your readiness. And that's where you are right now, standing at the border of a divine connection that will unlock every door that rejection once closed. Someone is about to mention your name in a room you've never entered. Someone is about to speak your work, your idea, your story into circles that you never thought would notice you. That's what the transfer looks like. It's not luck, it's alignment. Let's pause for a moment. If you've been feeling this energy resonate in your chest, stop scrolling and claim it out loud. This is my moment. Comment those words right now. Speak it because your voice is currency in the spiritual realm. The more you speak faith, the faster it manifests. Capricorn, this is not motivation. It's confirmation. You're in the middle of a divine equation. Your pain plus patience multiplied by faith is about to equal promotion. You've carried pain with elegance, and heaven has taken note. I remember hearing about a woman who lost everything overnight, her job, her home. Her husband walked away without warning. For months she lived in silence, hiding behind forced smiles. But what she didn't realize was that life was shifting her. She began painting again, something she hadn't done since childhood. One of those paintings ended up in a small local exhibition. A collector saw it and bought it for more than she'd earned in a year. That single moment birthed a career she never dreamed of. That's what happens when the divine transfer begins. It disguises itself as loss before revealing itself as glory. There's a mysterious timing unfolding right now for you, Capricorn. You've been feeling pressure not just emotionally but spiritually. You've been dreaming strange dreams, seeing repeating numbers, hearing songs that feel like messages. That's not coincidence. It's alignment. It's your spiritual antenna picking up the frequency of what's being released into your life. Angels move quietly but effectively. And lately, your spirit has been hearing footsteps of breakthrough before your mind can even comprehend what's coming. You might even feel restless, unable to stay in old routines. That's because your spirit has already moved ahead. It's your body trying to catch up. Do you remember how the Israelites had to walk through the wilderness for 40 years before entering the promised land? It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. They needed to unlearn the language of slavery before they could speak the language of sovereignty. That's you, Capricorn. Every delay, every heartbreak, every disappointment, it's been unlearning. The new level requires a new sound, a new mindset, a new identity. And that's what's forming right now. The old you can't handle the glory that's coming. So the universe had to make room by breaking what no longer fits. Capricorn, there's a pattern I've noticed with people who carry divine assignments. They're often misunderstood, misjudged, even mocked. Jesus himself was rejected in his own hometown because people couldn't see beyond the familiar. They saw the carpenter's son, not the savior. People around you have done the same. They've reduced your destiny to what they think they know about you. But what they fail to realize is that your story has a hidden chapter written by the divine. The version of you they underestimated is not the version that's rising now. The transfer that's coming will force even your enemies to testify that you were chosen. There's a reason why certain people can't stand your presence without explanation. It's not arrogance, it's anointing. Your energy agitates their insecurity because your light exposes their shadow. And as this transfer takes place, you'll notice the masks fall off. People will reveal themselves without you asking. Those pretending to support you will start slipping. Don't chase, don't explain, don't beg. Their exit is your evidence that the shift is near. History repeats itself spiritually. When the Roman Empire fell, it wasn't because an external army destroyed it, it was because internal corruption weakened it. That's what the divine is doing with your life right now. Every weakness, every doubt, every fear being purged, every internal sabotage being dissolved. Because the next chapter requires clean hands and a steady heart. You're not just stepping into wealth. You're stepping into influence. And influence without healing becomes destruction. That's why this process has felt so heavy. Heaven doesn't give crowns to those who haven't carried crosses. There's a story about Oprah Winfrey, how she was fired from her first TV job and told she wasn't fit for television. She cried, doubted, questioned her purpose. But what looked like rejection redirected her toward her own platform. The same network that once said she wasn't good enough later aired her global show. That's divine transfer in motion, where the same tables that once dismissed you become the tables that honor you. Capricorn, the world is about to see you differently. The same people who whispered about you will soon have to watch what they once ignored. You've been feeling a stirring lately, ideas waking up in your mind, plans you thought you forgot suddenly resurfacing. That's not nostalgia, that's prophecy. Things are being resurrected because their time has come. That business you left on hold, that dream you buried under doubt, that passion you thought had expired, it's being breathed into again. Just like Lazarus in the tomb, it's not dead, it's sleeping. And when the divine says, come forth, no obstacle can hold it back. Capricorn, there's a window opening over your life that happens rarely, a divine alignment between destiny and decision. Every action you take now matters more than before. So I'm urging you engage, not just with this message, but with your purpose. Write again, speak again, build again, let your faith move visibly. Because the spiritual transfer doesn't happen by watching, it happens by participating. Declare in the comments right now, I receive my divine transfer. Let heaven hear you. Let fear see that it has no hold on you anymore. You've cried enough tears to water an entire harvest. You've waited long enough to witness this dawn. But remember, before the light comes, there's always the thickest darkness. And if it feels heavy tonight, it's because the weight of your old life is making room for the new. Somewhere between your pain and your purpose, the divine hand is writing your next chapter. Something ancient and powerful is shifting right now.